Chapter 21. The End of Your Training. We don't know when our martial arts journey will end. Clearly, it will eventually, but it's our nature as human beings to not focus on such things. We can't. We have a mutual friend, Jeff. That guy had been training with us for years before he relocated to live his life out in the wilds of Colorado. Because of the pandemic shutting everything down, we didn't have a chance to celebrate that time on the floor together before he left. We don't have a solution to that kind of situation. And frankly, there is no resolution to it because a once-in-a-100-year pandemic is beyond our control. There is a nugget from this story, however. In life, we don't think of an exit plan, or at least not very often. What does a 20 or 30-something-year-old have to do with estate planning? Do we even have an estate at that age? Estate planning provides for the division of your assets upon your death to friends, family, associates, charities, or whomever you select. Folks often think that plans of this sort are negative, yet that idea is not true. These plans are perceived that way because they are implemented at the end of life, the end of the moment, the end of the business. None of these are thought of as good things. The idea of an exit plan is not something we spend a lot of time on, at least not in the mundane, in the day-to-day things. One of the great pieces of business advice we received, however, was that you need to have an exit plan. The business is going to end sometime, or your ability to own and run it will. We can see in martial arts that the lack of an exit plan is a disaster. When a school shuts down, it spreads all the students hither and yon like seeds in the wind. Each of these seeds, with its own particular take, its own claim to authority or lineage. For instance, there are at least 8 distinct lineages stemming from Wing Chun, one of the 3 great martial arts styles of southern China. This dynamic isn't just a martial arts thing. Have you heard of Galba? Galba, 3 BC to 69 AD, was proclaimed Emperor of Rome after Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus's death in 68 AD. Galba's troops in Spain said so. 7 months later, the Roman legions in Germany declared their commander Vitellius, 15 to 69 AD, emperor. Galba was then killed in a coup. Otho, a former governor of Portugal, was then named emperor. Otho, 32 to 69 AD, was promptly defeated in battle by Vitellius. In December of 69 AD, Vespasian marched his troops from the eastern provinces. Vespasian, 9 to 79 AD, captured and executed Vitellius. And that is how Rome had 4 different emperors in a single year. Chalk that up to lack of exit planning. History doesn't necessarily repeat, but it does most certainly rhyme. Being in a position, claims of lineage, claims of power, claims of the one true way are as old as time. Leadership battles happen in boardrooms, church basements, playgrounds, and martial arts schools. Succession battles are not limited to the famous Year of 4 Emperors from Roman history. A pending succession battles is likely looming under the floorboards you train upon today. You've seen it before, yourself. Let's take the act of marriage. Everybody enters into marriage with the best intentions, and often they do so without an exit plan, despite the fact that 43% of first marriages, 60% of second marriages, and 73% of third marriages in the United States end in divorce. If you don't have an exit plan and things don't work out, the state has one for you. They're going to tell you in brutal efficiency how your assets are to be divided, how people are to be divided. Think about that. The state is telling you how you will divide your life, your energy, with your child, Ren. It's brutal and savage, but it's still a resolution. A resolution not of your choosing, and probably not of your liking. Our point, if you don't make plans, somebody else does, and you probably won't like them. Back in the 90s, Kris attended a mini seminar at a university that was put on by a martial arts club. That group brought in a Zen priest who gave a phenomenal lecture. Kris enjoyed it to the point where one thing that was said has manifested in his life since that time. The priest said, "Every night, think of your death, and every morning when you wake, think of your death. Boom. Since that time, most mornings and most evenings, he thinks about his death. That sounds dour, sad, and odd, but trust us, it's not. Let us put a rope around this for you. After that priest spoke, Kris needed to know more, and there was some further study that was due, and he did it. Not all at once, but over the course of time. He delved into the writings of St. Ignatius, 1491 to 1556, and into the Franciscans' thoughts on the termination of life. There was, of course, Carl Jung, 1875 to 1961, as well as others who entered into that formula. It was about the idea that every morning and every evening could become useful instead of fearful. When thinking of his termination, he wasn't scared, but rather was making good choices. We don't know what the future holds. Some things can be prepared for with that exit plan or estate planning. Other aspects of life are obfuscated. We're going to give you an entry point into a method for dealing with that. It's not a solution, but it is a principle to apply that can help. When you take the comment from the Zen priest and you look at the writings of St. Ignatius, you look at some writings and sayings from St. Francis, 1181 to 1226, and you look at Carl Jung, plus others, they all lead one to belief that there is some truth there, a convergence of ideas. One of our favorite philosophers is Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180, the Roman emperor. Aurelius, like anybody, had his faults, but he was extraordinary, considered the last great Roman emperor. He said, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny for what could more aptly fit your needs." When Kris puts his head on his pillow, he takes that moment to think about what the day may bring when he wakes, and he thinks of those words. Now, we're not suggesting a laissez-faire approach to life. Oh, far from it. Waking up with no destination is, frankly, a little slice of hell, in our opinion. What Aurelius was saying was, set your course. What Ignatius said was to set your course. What Francis says, and Jung said, was to set your course. See the pattern here? Those luminaries all came to a common conclusion through different lenses at different times in history. Effectively, what they're telling us is that we must realize that whatever comes our way is part of the fabric of our destiny, and that we should deal with it in that manner. In other words, we should have an exit plan for every aspect of our life so that we can be free of poor choices in bad times. We should take the advice of estate planners and great thinkers of human history. Have an exit plan for the end of your karate or whatever martial art it is that you practice, because if you don't, somebody else will, and you won't like it. The last act of your set course should be yours, not directed by someone who doesn't have your best interests in mind. Takeaways. Consider the concept of exit plans in various aspects of your life. Contemplate on the idea of thinking about death every morning and evening, reflecting on the writings of St. Ignatius, St. Francis, Carl Jung, and Marcus Aurelius. Set your course in life while accepting whatever comes as part of your destiny. Quotes, only put off until tomorrow what you are willing to die having left undone. Pablo Picasso. I can control my destiny, but not my fate. Destiny means there are opportunities to turn right or left, but fate is a one-way street. I believe that we all have the choice as to whether we fulfill our destiny, but our fate is sealed. Paulo Coelho. There's nothing fun about stuff like estate planning, getting mammograms, or talking to a guy about long-term disability insurance. But you do it anyway. Trust me, the stress of not having done the above is prematurely aging. Jen Lancaster.